1. So this is question 14. I'm not going to answer all the questions due to time, but if time will allow me, I'm going to answer them all. I have something to do. Yeah. So I'll just pick some of the questions that seems to be difficult in this on this question. So I'll start with the first one, which is A. So A, okay, let me just say let y be equal to fx. I don't want to be writing fx everywhere. I want to be using y, at least it's easier for me. So where there is fx, I'll be putting 1. So the first one here is 2 sine 2x minus pi. So in short, this 2x is multiplying with everything in the brackets there. So this is going to be y is equal to 2 sine this part I am not used to this. Let me just do it. Okay, so this is 2 sine, so this will be 2x minus pi, so this will be 2 pi when you open the brackets, so give us 2 pi. So this is the question. So as I earlier on said in the question 15, if you watched question 15, the way I solved it, so what you do is first you identify your amplitude. So my amplitude in this case is just a coefficient of a trig ratio, which is 2. So my amplitude is 2. Then from there I'll find my period. For recap sake, I'll define the period again. So the period is just the number of units that it takes for one complete cycle of a trig ratio. So the period is given by the formula 2 pi over b. So b is just the coefficient of x there. So 2 pi, oh sorry, this is supposed to be 2 pi. So 2 pi over my b here is 2. So 2 pi over 2, which is equal to just pi. And then I'll also find the starting point where my first cycle is going to start from. So my first cycle is going to start at the point which is 2x minus, I'll just get everything in these brackets, and then I'll equate them to 0. 2x minus 2 pi is equal to 0. So when you calculate the value of when you find the value of x there, you discover that your x is going to start from pi. You make x the subject of the formula, you find that your x is going to start from pi. And then the point where your first cycle is going to end, I'll call it the end point. Is just given by, the end point is given by the period plus the x that you found. So the period plus your x. So my period is nothing but pi, and then plus the x that I've found is also pi. So now the end point where my first cycle is going to end is nothing but 2 pi. So this is where it is going to end. It is going to start from pi and end at 2 pi. So now, since I've known everything that I wanted, I can even draw, I can even sketch the graph now. So this is going to be like this. So 0 there. Then after writing 0 there, this is my x component, this is my x-axis, then this is my y-axis. Then I know to say my cycle is going to start from x, my curve is going to start from, oh sorry, it's going to start from pi, yes. It's going to start from pi. So if I put my pi here, if I put my pi there, meaning my 2 pi will be somewhere there. So these are the 2 points where, so it's going to start from pi and end at 2 pi. So the midpoint of pi and 2 pi is, what is the midpoint of pi and 2 pi? You know how to find the midpoint. You add the 2 and divide by 2. You add pi plus 2 pi and then you divide it by 2. You find 3 over 2 pi. So 3 over 2 pi is the midpoint. And then the midpoint of 3 over 2 pi and 2 pi is, you add the 2. When you add the 2, you are getting, so the midpoint of 3 over 2 pi, and that you get 7 over 4 pi. When you add 2 pi, so when you add 2 pi, yeah, the midpoint of 3 over 2 and 2 pi, you're going to get 7 over 4 pi. Yes, you're going to get 7 over 4 pi. And then the midpoint of pi and 3 over 2 pi, you add them and you divide them by 2. It's going to give us 5 over 4 pi. Yes. So now I think from here we can now draw our curve. So we know that the sine curve, when it's positive, it always comes out like this. When it's positive, and then when it's negative, then when it's negative, to come out like this. So for a positive sign, we're going to start from there, and then since we don't have anything that is going to shift the curve, meaning we're starting from this same point here. So let me use a different color. So I'm going to start from this point, and then it will go and have, oh wait, first let's consider the amplitude as well. Okay, supposed to be like this. So the amplitude is equal to 2, as we found here. So meaning this is going to, you move 2 steps from the axis where you are going to start drawing your curve. You move 2 points coming down and 2 units going up like that. That's the meaning of the amplitude. So the amplitude is just, in other words, it's just the minimum and the maximum x coordinate of the curve. Oh sorry, the minimum and maximum y coordinate of the curve. So our curve is going to start from here to rise up to 2, and then to come down like that up to 2, and then to end there. So this is our y is equal to 2 sine, I'll write it the way they wrote it in the question, 2 sine x minus pi. So this is the solution for the first question. This is the solution for the first question. Sorry for that. This is the solution for the first question. Alright, so I think we can also do the second question. B. So this was our A. Let me just delete. Alright, so we move on to B. Oh, sorry. We move on to B. Let me use black. Okay, so B is equal to, you remember earlier on I said where there's fx I'll just be putting y, but for you you're supposed to be putting fx. But if you want, you can show the lecture to say I want where there's x to be y, so you just write somewhere to say let f of x be equal to y. You want your f of x to be y, like what I've done here. So I'll go to B. B is equal to half cos. So B is equal to half cos. I'll just expand it in advance. 3 times x, I'll get 3x. And then 3 times pi, I'll get 3 pi. So this is what we're going to have as our B. So first of all, we find the amplitude. The amplitude is half. So my amplitude is half. Oh, the question is saying find the period, the amplitude, the phase shift. So on this first question, our phase shift was 0. The phase shift in the vertical, the vertical phase shift was 0, while the horizontal phase shift was pi on this question. And then on this one, the amplitude is equal to half. You just get the coefficient there, and then the period so the period is equal to, remember what we said period is nothing but 2 pi over the given coefficient of x here. So the given coefficient of x here is 3. It's just 2 pi over 3. So my period is 2 over 3 pi. Yeah, my period is 2 over 3 pi, like that. And then I should also find the phase shift. The vertical phase shift, of course, is 0. Why am I saying 0? If this had something like plus 2 this side, would have said the vertical shift is 2. Would have said the vertical shift is 2. But since it has nothing, the vertical shift is 0. Same applies to this. If it had any constant this side, would have said the vertical shift is equal to this constant. But since it has nothing, then it is 0. And then we also find the horizontal shift. So the horizontal shift is the one that I always say. The starting point of a curve in the x-axis. But pardon me if I'm switching them horizontal and vertical. If I'm switching them, we can go and research that. I'm not really sure, but just know that this is the phase shift that I'm finding right now. So the phase shift here is the phase shift, I always call it the starting point and the end point. So the starting point, you always get what is in the brackets there, and then you equate them to 0. So 3x plus 3 pi, you equate them to 0. You discover that your value of x is nothing but negative pi. So this is the point where my curve is going to start from. It's going to start from negative pi, and then one cycle is going to finish, rather it's going to end at the point where, at the point that I'm calling the end point. The end point, which is equal to, so it's going to end at so it's going to end at p plus x. So my p is 2 over 3 pi. 2 over 3 pi is my p, and then 2 over 3 pi, and then you add negative pi. So I'm adding negative pi there. So when you add the 2, you find your answer to be, oh yeah, instead of writing pi, I'm writing 8, sorry. Yeah, let me just do this. Okay, so this is pi. Then you can add the fraction, and after adding, you discover that your answer will be negative. This will be negative. So 2 times 2 there, or 1 times 2 there, it's 2, and then minus 3, you get negative pi over 3. So negative pi over 3 is the end point. This is where it's going to end. So we can now start drawing the curve. So I'll draw my curve like this. I know to say it's going to start from the x and from this other part and end from the same part. So I'll draw it in this manner. I'll draw it in this way. Like this. So this is my x axis, and then this is my f of x, or rather y. So this is my 0, then I'll put pi there. Then I'll put my negative pi there. Then here I'll put my negative pi over 3. Let me just write it properly. Yes, like that. So from there, what you can also do is here is that you can find now the midpoint of these two numbers. How do you find the midpoint? You add the two numbers. Then when you add the two numbers, you divide them by 2. You divide them by 2. So when you add the two numbers, you discover that when you add the two numbers, you find your answer. When you add pi over 3 and pi, your answer of course will be, we'll just come back to this, I think. Yes, it's just giving you, no, wait, when you add pi over 3, when you add pi over 3 and 1, your answer will be 4 over 3. Then when you divide that by 2, you get your answer to be 2 over 3. So your midpoint here will be 2 2 over 3, negative 2 over 3 pi. So what you do again here is you again find the midpoints there and there. So here when you find the midpoint there, you'll get 5 over 6 pi. And then when you find the midpoint there, you'll get negative half pi. So from there now we can start drawing. And then when drawing, you look at your amplitude. Now our amplitude here is half, so meaning this curve is going to be half wall in the positive. I'll put half there, and then half in the negative. That's my amplitude. So from there we can now start drawing. So it's going to start from this point. So it's going to start from that point. We all know to say if cos is positive, always comes out like this. So it's going to start from that point, and then it will cut, then turn at negative half to go like that. Wow. So this is your second question. This is a solution for the second question. Alright, let's also move to, I think question 3 is, question C is similar to B. The only difference is this part. Yeah, and the amplitude is different. But otherwise, you do it the same way I've done this. Let us move on to the next question. So I'll skip question C, so that at least I cover a lot of questions at once. I'll skip it. Okay. Wow. So let me write D now. D. I think even D is similar to A. The only different things there is the coefficient of x, the angle there in radians, and even the amplitude. But otherwise, the way you do it is just the same. So let me just do one of these two questions here, and I think the one that most of you would like me to do is this one, because I know this one has positive 2, which implies that it's straightforward. So this is now the phase shift. This is the horizontal. This is the vertical shift now. So this is a shift that is that implies to say. So it implies that the curve that we're going to draw is going to shift 2 units going to the positive up. And then this one means it's going to shift 2 units going down to the negative. So let me start with this one. I'll do F and probably even E, or maybe let me just do E, and then F you can do it on your own. So E, so Y is equal to 2 minus 3, 2 minus 3 sine x plus pi over 2. So first and foremost, we first write the amplitude. The amplitude is just the coefficient of the trig ratio, which is 3. So our amplitude is going to be 3. Secondly, we find the period So the period, as I earlier on said, is just 2 pi. The period is just 2 pi over the coefficient of x here is 1, which gives us the same 2 pi. I'm writing there. Alright, so after finding the period, we can find the phase shifts now. So this curve is shifting shifting up to the positive axis with 2. So it's shifting with 2, and then we find the starting point and the ending point, which is just the phase shift in the horizontal axis, or along the horizontal axis. It's going to be shifting along the horizontal axis, meaning the starting point where the curve is going to start. I said when you're finding the starting point, you just put this in brackets, you equate it to 0. You get that and equate it to 0. So x plus pi over 2 is equal to 0. Then you discover that your x after calculating is just nothing but negative pi. It's negative pi over 2. So this is your x, this is your starting point. Let's now also find the end point. Where is our first cycle going to end? So the end point, I'm always calling it the end point. So it's starting at negative pi over 2, and then the end point is going to be the period. Then you add it with the x that you found. So when you add x with the period, you are going to have something like this. Your period is 2 pi. Then you add it to x. So when you add it with x, it will be minus pi over 2. And your answer now here will get, when you add that, you get 3 over 2 pi. So this is going to be the point where your curve is going to end. So from here, I think we can even start sketching the curve. Yes, so I think we can even start drawing the curve. So our curve is going to be like this. We draw it like that. It's going to be like that. And then we're going to have negative half this side. This is your y. This is your x. Then we're going to have negative half, and then probably somewhere here, maybe we're going to have our 3. We put the endpoints. In other terms, they call it the domain. So this is your domain. So now you can now start finding the other angles in between. So you first find the angle between these two angles. So again, the simplest way of finding the numbers between here, you just get the period and divide it by 4. So when you divide the period by 4, you are going to have, when you divide 2 pi by 4, you're going to have half. So you're going to be adding half to all these numbers that we're going to have here. So when you add negative half plus half, you get a 0, and then 0 plus half, you get half. You get half. And then half plus half, you get a 1. And then a 1 plus half, you get that. So you can start even, we can start even sketching the curve. This is a sine curve and it's negative, meaning instead of it coming out like this, it's going to, instead of it coming out like this, it's going to come out like this. Since it's negative here, there's a negative sign there. So we look at now our phase shift, which is 2. Supposed to shift 2 units going up to the positive 2 units. Then since the amplitude is 2, so it's going to go up to 0. The minimum will be 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 plus 2, the maximum is going to be 4. So this is our new axis. So now what you do here again is you start sketching. So I'm going to sketch, this is a sine curve supposed to come out like this. This is negative. So we're going to start, let me also extend this to this side. Okay. So I'm going to start from this side. So it's going to start from there and then it will come down like that at 0, and then wait. So it's going to come down here, and then the minimum is going to be there, then go up, the maximum is going to be there, then come down there. So this is our graph that we need. I think the last part there is simple because almost everything that I've done here is just the same as what is in this question. It's just that instead of shifting to the positive up, it is going to shift to the negative down. Yes. So thank you very much for watching the video. Make sure that you subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe to the video and share the video to your friends.